Alright, so let's talk about if and else conditional statement. So let me write if, let's say if true, echo yes, else echo no. Simple enough, and obviously what you anticipate, it will output yes. So now let's add some values in here instead of true, and let's add some tricky values and let's see what happens. So if we add 0, so and refresh, it gives us no. So you might think that 0 actually is a number and it actually has a value, so why it is giving in else? So basically what it does, what if does is, whatever we pass in here, it tries to convert it into its boolean equivalent, and then depending on if it's true or false, it gives us the result. So boolean equivalent of 0 is false, so that's why it went into else. Second is, let's add 1 and refresh, it gives us yes, because boolean equivalent of 1 is true, so that's why it's going into this yes condition. Let's add some other number, let's say 65, refresh again. So this is an existent value, so that's why its boolean equivalent is also true, so that's why it going inside yes. Now let's talk about strings. Let's say John Doe and refresh, so it gives us yes. So string equivalent of this, boolean equivalent of this string is true, because this actually contains some value, so that's why it's giving us true, that's why it's going inside yes loop. Now let's make it blank, so a string which does not contain any characters, and if we refresh, it's going to give no, because it does not contain any value, any characters in it. So boolean equivalent of this is false, that's why it's going inside no. Let's add some space and refresh, and it's going to give yes. The reason is, even if it's just a space, it's still a kind of valid binary character, and that's why this string has some value even if it's just a space, and so string having some characters, the boolean equivalent is true as I mentioned, so that's why it's going inside the yes loop, the yes block of code, so it's evaluating to true. So now let's go in further detail and let's add some expressions in here. So $name is equal to John Doe. So inside here, take a note that we are not adding double equal to, so that we are not checking if $name is equal to John Doe, but we are assigning John Doe as a string to a value of this dollar variable. So let's refresh, and it's giving us yes. So what internally is happening is, the output of this expression name is equal to John Doe is basically John Doe, because as per the precedence of this operator, it goes from right to left, so value goes from right to left. So $name, which has value of John Doe, so basically it's as good as writing John Doe in here. So as I mentioned, it contains a valid string, so that's why it gave us the value yes. So let's trick it a little bit, and let's add this name is equal to blank. So what do you think? Obviously it will give us no. The reason is being, even if we are trying to assign a value, we are trying to assign a string which does not contain any characters, so the output of this, the return value of this, is basically just a blank string, so it's as good as writing this. And then string equivalent of boolean equivalent of a string which does not contain any character is false, so that's why it giving us no. We can also write 4 plus 6, which evaluates to 10, and 10 has a boolean equivalent of true, the boolean equivalent of any number, as I mentioned, other than 0 is true. So let's add minus 66 and it's still going to give you yes, because even if it's a negative number, but still it has some value and other than 0. That's why it will give us true, and it will output yes. So if statements are very tricky, I mean those are very simple, but then you might get through some situations like you have some function which is returning, let's say $name is equal to user get name, and then you are passing if name in here, echo user, I guess it's a lame example, I know, but still in case like this, if name contains a string, then obviously it will go into this, but then sometimes it will go into else, and you might wonder why it's happening, because in database there might be some value, but if that value is blank, as I mentioned, if it's like this blank, so it does not contain any value, but it's not also throwing an error because this is still a kind of valid statement. So that's why it's going to inside the else statement. So be aware and add your own checks inside here. So you can do name not equal to blank. So this makes sense also, and it's kind of more readable way of checking if name exists and it's not blank. Okay, so thanks for your time, and see you in the next video.